All right, we're recording. So, hello, Bryan and Bryan.
Hi.
Right.
I kind of wanted to mention something to Bryan.
Yeah.
You can refer to me as Bryan C. And you're Bryan L, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. That'll make sense. Yeah.
So anyway, so Bryan, I understand that you're a scientist.
Okay.
And,
Yeah. I can give you a quick introduction to my background because I know
Sure.
at this point you probably know very little about me.
Yeah.
So
How did
Bryan
you
and
guys
I
meet
just got.
first?
What's that?
How did you guys meet first? That's what I'd like to know.
well,
Tell me
Read
that
it.
first.
I read Bryan's Substack. Actually, I originally saw his post on Reddit. I think in the Futurology subreddit, and I think I commented on something, and then I went into your Substack and read the full article. And I was intrigued by it. It was a way of framing information databases in a way that I hadn't really heard before, in terms of and then it seems
Democracy.
like you had a lot of historical, potentially political or information technology implications for the system. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Your area of science. Tell us more about your area of science.
yeah, I use information technology and pretty regularly, but I'm not myself an IT guy or computer programmer. Although I do computer programming regularly, that's not my specialty. My specialty is I have a degree in chemistry from Indiana University, and after I completed that, I went to do my PhD in chemical physiology at Scripps Research Institute, and then I've worked in several industrial jobs. Also one government job at the FDA. So that's last 10 years I've been kind of working in several different organizations, mostly in peripheral to medicine. And currently I'm working at a medical school. That's kind of a quick snapshot of who I am and what I am.
I found it interesting when I looked it up. Experimental science. It describes it as the science of cause and effect.
Yeah, that's a one way I haven't thought about looking at it before. That's interesting, huh?
That's how I talk about it.
Yeah. So anyway, I found that very interesting because I thought that latest article that I had written, the latest thing on Substack there, was very much in cause and effect. Was kind of the basis of it, I think. And so I thought that was interesting. I've been working on this narrative for a long, long, long time. And this
Since 17 years old.
Yeah, since
Oh, wow.
17. So, and I'm not good at this. I'm a welder. And I'm a bit of an inventor. I like to invent things. I have quite a list of things that I've made. But my background is in welding, furthest thing from academics, you could imagine. And, I think I would have been diagnosed as dyslexic when I was a kid, except for they didn't do that. I'm pretty old, so they weren't diagnosing people that way then. So anyway, so getting these thoughts down on paper has been a real challenge for me. It's just not, and it's something I do at all ever in my life until this project. So anyway, I was pretty pleased with myself with that last article because I really felt like that was probably the best writing I've ever done so far.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, don't expect that kind of quality every time.
Okay.
He's lowering expectations.
Well, maybe you better a little, at least coming from me. Now, I as you guys saw, I think I need a lot of work on it yet, but I tried to write something down. We really need to get moving on getting a new website set up. So that's got to be the top priority at the moment, I think. It's the next stage after getting somebody's attention is to fully describe the system to them. And Bryan, I don't know if you have much of an understanding of what KAOS is yet at this point, or.
So you're going to have to fill me in all the details based on the summaries you sent me and tell me if I'm wrong. It's essentially envisioned as a database that anyone in the world can submit information to that are kind of raw opinions from the world's population. And these could be accessed similar to how you might access like Google or another search engine, except for it won't have all the downsides of some of the more classic search, like bias towards mainstream media or censorship or things like that.
But the idea is no control at all, not even categorizations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to mention that, everything is accessible through search engines or AI, but they will be manipulating the information. So
the data analysis.
Yeah. So whatever system you're using to look at our data, maybe censoring it, maybe doing many different things to influence you. So now it's your opportunity, though, to try it through another search engine to see how it's manipulating the information. So
I see.
That this leaves it.
Well, you can also make your own in a sense.
Yes.
You can you can do your own data analysis. A data analyst could come in and do his own work.
Yes.
I see. Okay. And how would that? Yeah, go on.
Well, I just wanted to say that we're trying to create it so that none of this judgment takes place within our system. That way, it's for the purpose of being transparent and so nobody can judge the system in any way. But there will be lots of judgment over the search engines and different ways that.
And there will also be bias, but not from the system.
Yeah.
The bias will come from users themselves.
Yes, that's right. And so it's up to the individual. Right now, there is nobody telling you what is. They'll tell you what they say is truth or proper information or anything like this. It's up to the individual really to figure out whether or not it's correct information. And here it's still kind of
where we are today. It's always been.
It's always been like that. We are, people, they will tell you they have systems that will tell you the truth, but they're all flawed. So anyway,
So can I ask one question? I'll follow up on that. So you're going to you'll be using the search engine or the AI program that you typically use, but then you'll put it through your infrastructure to then give a readout of what biases came through that search engine. Is that the way I'm understanding it?
No, not through our search. This is totally on you.
Okay.
To if you suspect that you are the biases are a problem for you, then try a different method of accessing the information.
Well, the point is you'll have an array of AI bots that you can use. Yeah. Some if I make suppose I'm a data analyst and I make some sort of data analysis package tool which has AI in it, let's say, and then I offer it to other people to then use in KAOS to analyze the data, but everyone will have all of them accessible to them.
Yeah.
It's not just one, and none of them are forced on you. You get to choose.
So
you can use none of them. You can just do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You can use an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Well. I got you. Now I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Well, the point is though that these different methods of accessing all these different search engines are being created on the free market. So there's going to be conservatives that make them, and there's going to be liberals that make them, and there's going to be all various what do you call it?
I mean, technically, ChatGPT itself can do it.
Yeah.
The existing ChatGPT could do this.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah. The existing AI systems right now are capable of doing virtually most of
just
what
like they Google search for us now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. AI is a little better than that than regular Google, but I think Google's gone downhill a little bit. But yeah.
So the point being, though, that all these methods will have biases built into them. We know Google has biases. We know that ChatGPT has biases. But there will be all these different sources from different people that think differently. So, you think you're getting the too left, the woke of a version. Well, then go check out to see what the conservative version does, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And now it's up to you to be able. And since they are all gathering from the same data source, This makes it easier to compare them.
Yeah. I see.
Where right now, every source of data that collects all this information now, like a Facebook or a Twitter, they have one mechanism of data analysis chosen by the king of that company.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No one else gets to have any say in the data analysis, or even what data is allowed to be on the system in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll be able to take someone's bot that they developed for analyzing data in a specific way, download it, modify it if you want to, or just study it and then use it yourself.
I'm guessing you probably won't have to download it, similar to.
Not download. I mean,
but
put it on the servers or
whatever the method is.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm also just a amateur programmer, probably less amateur than you, even more amateur. How do you say that? Less skilled is what I meant.
Less. Okay. I don't know. I'm pretty down there. So you sound like you know more than me already, but I don't know. I've worked with like basic programming in Python and Linux, and at the FDA, they have like a huge database called Minihive, which is
some of your code is running right today.
Yeah.
I don't really have code running. I'm such an amateur where I've made stuff, used it for a little bit, and never had to use it. I don't need it in my job or anything. So
okay.
Yeah. So the emphasis is on the individual to be able to navigate this stuff. And I like to look at the same as the way you make decisions now. Right now, you have your various sources, maybe influencers or friends and family, but you take all of their advice with a grain of salt, right? You understand their biases, and now it's up to you to weed through all that and come to your own conclusions. So it's very much exactly the same thing, except for hopefully these bots I expect that these search engines are bots that you're going to use to access the information. Myself personally, I see myself having several of them, and I will understand their biases to some degree from working with them over time. And I will ask each individual bot the same question. And then just like I would ask my friends the same question, and see what their responses are and weigh their response by what I think their bias is.
You could go further and treat them like doctors. You ask one doctor or AI bot, why are you disagreeing with the other 9 bots? What do you know that they don't?
Yeah,
that's a big problem in medicine, because over the last 4 or 5 years, especially, using ChatGPT has become a regular fixture of pretty much every doctor's toolkit for making diagnoses. And just in the
doctors are using them?
What's that?
You're saying the doctors are using ChatGPT? Yeah,
all the time. Like, I'm in medical school.
I thought you were going to say the patients are doing it.
Oh, they're doing that too, probably. That's why we have so many more self-diagnoses. Because there's a lot of hypochondriacs out there.
Well, I hope the doctors argue with the ChatGPT instead of just, accept.
Oh, well, that's.
Yeah, I'm sure they check the info very well.
Hey, you went silent. Hey, Brian, you went silent.
Brian L., you're silent.
Yeah.
Sorry,
there you are.
I don't know what I did. I didn't want.
What did you just say? We missed it.
Yeah. Speaking of technological problems, I was just saying that what I've found is that ChatGPT is very good for mainstream kinds of searches where you're just looking for general science articles or general political articles, but for very detailed medicine, it's very poor. And it's not that the data is not out there. You can Google it and often get the right answer from Google if you know what you're doing. It's just the way it web scrapes for certain subjects introduces a lot of bias in medicine, which is really kind of scary if you think about it. Since
similarly, ChatGPT does poorly at explaining its math reasoning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
It might get the math right, but if you ask it to explain why it's doing such steps, it can't explain it well, and also it sometimes actually gets the math wrong.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So. So anyway, that's kind of the basics of how it works. There's no chat feature or anything like this. There's no. It's just
no
a
video.
Database. No video. Yeah, we're just working in digital.
What about links? And links to video.
Yeah, you can link to images and videos and
what if it links to like Pornhub?
Well, you could. Yes.
You're laughing, but I'm worried about this.
Yeah.
Well, in that last little thing I just said to you guys, this has always been an issue that people bring up with me. Is I always like to state that we won't be doing any editing or manipulation of the data. Now they always say, well, countries have laws that about certain words or the statements and whatever, and so how are you going to accommodate them? And and there's and that the society itself will probably want to censor. So anyway, the way I've always described how it'll be is that it's up to the people that run this thing, and I'm hoping to influence them to always do almost no editing, if any at all. And but it's going to be up to the people. But as I've come to realize, and I was thinking about this the other day, just as I was writing that stuff, I always thought in the past, but I didn't know how legally this would work, that even though we have the data in the system, it's not like a social network that they're going to feed it to you. So now these search engines that you're going to use to go through our data, they may very well have feeds that they're going to take off of there and say, well, check out this opinion or check out that opinion. But that's that will be on them to do the censoring then, right? So even though the data is there, it doesn't mean they have to take it and feed it to you.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So if there's a word that in that community is considered taboo, and they decide that their search engines won't accommodate that kind of information going through them, then that takes care of the censoring without involving us. So
I don't understand the technology of what you're saying. Well, I wonder if that's possible.
Well, right now, Google does censorship right now.
But that's because it is doing the data analysis. We're having our own third-party data analysis. Those engines are the ones doing any censoring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Suppose it's a country you're talking about.
Yeah.
That says X, Y, and Z is not allowed. How can they control which AI bot I choose to use?
Well, exactly. Well, that's up to the country. So in China right now, you can't use certain search engines.
Yeah, so they could take off KAOS altogether then.
Well, they can, but they could also, because they want their people.
That's the most they could do.
That would be the worst thing they could do.
They can't do a middle step like KAOS is allowed, but you can't use these 5 bots. It can't do that. Technically speaking, it's not capable, right? Am I right?
Well, no. I mean, right now, who is it in China? Is it Google? I think they're not allowed to use Google in China.
Yeah, they shut down the whole system, but that's equivalent to shutting down KAOS.
No, it's not. So I don't think so. So it's the equivalent of shutting down the source. So they have their own search engines now, right? In China, they have ones that are sanctioned by the government that people can use, right?
Yeah,
that's correct, right? So anyway, those search engines are still scraping the entire internet for all the data, but then they're editing out the stuff China doesn't allow, and that's the only thing you can access from those search engines in China, right? So in other words, they're not forcing the internet to take down the information they don't like. They're just making sure their people don't see it.
Okay,
right? So we're the same thing. We are, like the internet,
I do see it's the same. I'll tell you where it's different.
Okay, how?
Brian L. made the point that if an AI bot that I want to use for data analysis of KAOS data, let's suppose I download the program.
Yeah.
Well, now China can't stop it. If instead it was a web service that I use as an AI bot to access KAOS, China can censor that website. But if I somehow downloaded a program to do data analysis, then I could talk to KAOS.
But China deals with that right now.
Okay.
People find ways around to use Google.
Then China might hate it so much they'll just take down KAOS, which is probably the thing they'll do.
But
suppose every country did that.
Yeah. Well, here, let's get to this point. There's a reason they don't just not allow their people to use the internet, because they could do that too. They could say there's so much
North
bad
Korea.
information. Well, North Korea does this, yes, and that's the extreme. But China is probably not going to take that route, because they're going to see how good this information is, and that it's helpful in a lot of ways. So they may very well try to block the whole thing at first. But as the rest of the world starts to accelerate, they're going to try to figure out a way to work it in, because they want to accelerate too, right? But they're going to try to do it in their own method and try to do it where they edit it in their own way. So just the same reason they don't stop the entire internet, because it's valuable to their advancement.
No, yeah, I don't think they would stop the entire internet. Yeah, I get what you mean. That's after a bunch of values created. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think you could?
The worst countries will be last.
Yes, could be. Yes, it could be. Yeah, but hopefully,
I wonder if the best countries. I'm not even sure which countries those are. I'm not sure U.S. is, but I'm wondering if any of the best countries would allow it, because even let's say U.S. the laws we have. I'm pretty sure they like what they do currently to Facebook and Twitter and all those guys. They're forcing them under threat of punishment to censor.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I wonder if you could have do you think you could have a workaround where you, if a country comes to KAOS and says, "Hey, we don't like what you're doing. Our guys are using this to, see that democracy is better than communism or something." Could you say, "Okay, well, we want to still work with you, so our databases are available to as many people as possible. So can we just remove the bots from the Chinese servers that directly criticize the Chinese Communist Party or something like that, and then that they can still access all the other bots, but just not specific things?" Is that an accurate or a question that makes sense based on the way KAOS works? Or
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you're describing the same thing, where they'll figure out their own ways of accessing the data, and with whatever editing or whatever they feel that they need to do. And they just like they don't allow Google in China right now, right? So they have their own search engines. It'd be very similar.
But one extra level is those people in China and all these places where they are silenced, they can still bypass whatever blocking mechanisms they have and get on the internet. And so these people will still get on KAOS.
They probably will, yes. And that's a good thing.
Some of them, 1%, whatever.
Yeah. In a country, I've been thinking more and more how, as a selling point too, that in a country like Taiwan, where they're worried about China coming in and taking over, right? If this whole system was in place prior to the takeover, and people had all found ways to access the internet that was not easily tampered with, like in other words, before the Chinese come in, they all get Starlink systems and stuff like this, right?
That's true, yeah.
So it makes it really hard, and then they all register with our system, so we know who they are, right? And they do all this before China takes over. Then China moves in. They can still find ways around the different methods that China tries to block the KAOS system, and still get the word out about their opinions about what's happening in their country. And so it'd be like a second layer of democracy over the Chinese government that they just can't really remove, and that's constantly giving them feedback that they may not want, but that is constantly there. And so it will force their hand in certain directions because of the pressures that it creates. So it's like I said, so it's a second layer of democracy over their governing system that once it's there, it's going to be really hard to eradicate. So, I think that would be a big selling feature to a country like Taiwan that's looking at possibly a major change.
So we'll have some early adopters.
Well, this is why this is one, that and the fact that these countries have very young democracies. Taiwan's democracy is only one generation old. So, these people still have a real thirst for democracy. They have a real love of democracy, far more than the West. The West is tainted. They think
9 generations are forgetting about it.
Yes.
or 10 or 12. I don't know. I didn't count.
If you look out there's people now thinking that we should go back to monarchy. There's people right now saying that we should go back to a monarchy. No, not Taiwan. Here in
the
America.
U.S. That was what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taiwan, they understand it. We forgot it. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how fucking twisted things are getting.
Yeah, they have what? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, far away from democracy. People are moving away from democracy. So here in the West,
some of them are. I don't know how many, but it's a lot.
I've met a couple of MAGA supporters that are, I mean, I don't want to get political. I don't have too much. I'm a pretty apolitical person, but there was a couple people that were very pro-democracy a few years ago, and then Trump got elected, and they're like, hey, this actually maybe a dictatorship wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, but they don't use that word. I wonder what actual word they use.
I don't know, authoritarianism or totalitarianism or something. Yeah, I don't know.
They use those words and they think it's good.
Yeah. I mean, they said they didn't used to think that, but I guess they're like, oh, this isn't so bad or so. I don't know, but it's very benign compared to Adolf Hitler or something like that. So they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, they always want the benevolent leader, the benevolent.
Yeah, they think they have a good dictator.
But yeah,
here's something that I believe is to be an absolute fact. Is that a benevolent or a dictator in general, whether or not they're benevolent, a dictator in general can accomplish far more than any other governing system in the world. There's no doubt of.
And it can also destroy way more.
Yeah, I have to add one more thing though. A dictator who has the population on their side. So that's what do they call it? Mussolini had the population on his side.
So did Hitler.
Not quite as much. Mussolini far more. Okay. Mussolini had, at the beginning, everybody, virtually everybody on his side. He had way over 50% of the population. I don't know if you know this. I often wondered how he got into power. They had a king prior. And the king gave up the throne, and he gave the head position to Mussolini. He handpicked Mussolini as the strongman dictator.
So it actually moved from a more dictatorship style to a little bit less dictatorship style.
Well, I mean, it's a monarchy to a dictator. So, a monarchy is kind of a dictator too. There's not a whole lot of difference. Yeah. Right?
I mean, there was more people involved in decision making, right? Or is it just Mussolini?
I don't know how his structure worked.
I mean, in the Hitler case, they were a democracy, and then the winners, Nazis, destroyed all the democratic institutions, like having other parties.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. They got rid of all the opposition.
So they very much went backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in the Mussolini case, but
so anyway, the point being though that I was making is that not having any checks and balances can really make you move. And so a country, there's no doubt about it that in my mind, a dictatorship is the fastest way to make a country, advance to move in whatever direction, right? But this is the point. What direction does it go in? It doesn't always go in the direction that the people want, right?
Right.
And so, like Mussolini was popular at first, but he lost his popularity. And when that happens, there's no recourse, right? What do you do? The guy's already in revolution. Power. Yeah, right. you got to do another.
It's not a peaceful means of changing rulers.
That's right. So anyway, there's obvious problems with a dictatorship, but there's no doubt in my mind, these people, everybody that thinks that a dictatorship will have bigger results is absolutely correct. There's no doubt about that. That's the reason why China has brought their people from poverty to where they are now, in such a short period of time. They are correct to say that no democracy probably could have ever done that. And that's a real damning statement on democracy. Yeah. Right? This is a very big damning statement on democracy. And that's why people are looking at dictatorships as a better alternative. The problem is, how do you make sure that they're benevolent, right? Yeah. They haven't figured that one out. Nobody has, because that's an impossible scenario. You're never going to get past that. So anyway,
Makes sense. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a democracy here that is getting closer to comparable to a dictatorship, in the sense that we can come to conclusions quickly, and we can all decide that that's what we want to do.
Okay, that's a weird way to say it.
That we have to get democracy to a point that it's comparable to a dictatorship, that we can say that we don't have that problem of succession, of being able to get rid of the dictator. We don't have that problem, so this is good. But we can also move almost as fast. We can move and the best part, we're always moving in the direction that the people want, right?
Right, as opposed to now where it's driven by corruption and special interest and lawmakers that don't know what they're doing and things like that.
Yes.
And where all those guys are manipulating our opinions.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
We're not getting what we want as a population right now.
Right. And so what if one follow up on that though is just like certain social media companies will have people that go out there and just have all these bots that remove opinions they don't like, or they just flood the servers with bots that are like fake political bots that give you false information or something. How would you address that in the KAOS framework? Would you look at that? Go ahead.
In most things, I always like to use this example that if I'm looking for a restaurant, I'm not going. First of all, we take all the anonymous opinions, right? And anonymous opinions are problematic for these reasons that you're pointing out. But when people are registered with us, and we know that, they are not going to be far more careful about the opinions they put out there because there's a record of it. And they're going to live with that decision they put in there for the rest of their lives, right?
I see. Yeah.
So they're not going to just be trolling because they'll just be known as a troll. And everybody and our bots or our systems that are going to be combing this, going through this data, are going to eliminate their opinions because they go, well, they got a history of just being trolls, right? So they're not even going to be counted by most of us when we try to figure out what people are thinking, right? So if you want your opinion to have any real weight or value in our system, you're going to want a reputation of making good decisions, right? And there's no one individual system that is evaluating you. It's a whole bunch of different systems evaluating you in different ways, but they're all going to look at your past. And if you've been a troll the entire time, they're all going to come to the same conclusion. Your opinions were shit, right?
Yeah.
So
boy cried wolf, right?
Yes. So you're going to be able to, all the opinions that you go through in our system, you're going to be able to decide which opinions mean more to you. So if it's a medical situation, you're going to probably want to look at more of the doctor's opinions, right? And if it's so even though everybody's putting an opinion on that, you can weed through it and you can say, well, this is what the doctors are saying, or this is what the surgeons specifically are saying, or this is what, and you get very specific, detailed information. So when it comes to all these bots and everything, so if I'm looking for a restaurant or something like that to eat at, I'm going to look at the reputable opinions that people put out there that have identified themselves, because I don't think that those are going to be good, worthwhile looking at any anonymous opinions. Some of these people may be just ex-employees or pissed off or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to weed out the stuff I don't think is relevant, and I'm going to go to the stuff that I think is most relevant. And in fact, I won't even do this. My bot will do this. My bot will know me. It will know that I don't want to look at any anonymous opinions when I'm looking at a restaurant. I'll ask my bot.
You're telling it a million times, like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So anyway, they'll be filtered in this way that eliminates any problems with bots or what do you call it, where they throw a whole bunch of opinions at some astroturfing or any of this stuff. So now, though, when an issue comes up with China, and there's something going on with China, whatever it is, if I want to dig into that, I may want to look at the anonymous opinions, because I know that a lot of people can only use anonymous opinions when they're talking about China, especially people from in China. So I'm going to look and I'm going to assess that, even though I know that those could be all manipulated by bots, right? But I know this, right? So anyway, there may still be some information there that's worth looking at. So we still want to accept everything, right? But it's up to us. Once again, it's up to us. We are the ones that are controlling how we're editing this data, right? So, but to me, this eliminates a lot of these problems that you find on the rest of the internet. Is the fact that most people will be registered, and you'll be able to get information from them specifically.
What's the format of the opinion that is going to be submitted for the KAOS database of opinions?
One text field, I think.
I'm sorry, what? I don't quite understand the question.
Okay, so you have someone that is an expert in medicine, but they're not super technologically adept, but they still want to write a Word document and make that available. Is that possible? Or
yeah. Well,
okay.
Anybody's opinion on anything.
I mean, it's just a text field, right?
No, just a text field. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all right.
No formatting. You can put links.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a tweet, but we haven't I guess there's no max length.
No, there's no max length. Although, once again, I mean, if you want to see people, you're going to think about what's going to get the most traction, just like you do on any internet site. So you want to keep it brief. You want to keep it, concise.
Put some paragraph returns.
Yeah, if you do a bad job of writing an opinion, then it may not go anywhere just because of the bad writing. I mean, it's like anything on the internet, though, right?
Yeah.
So,
and the bots themselves, what kind of program do you use to develop those, and what is that? How intensive is that process of making?
Well, first of all, ChatGPT is one itself. It could do it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
So,
but if say you wanted to you saw all these medical biases in ChatGPT like I did, and you wanted to go out and edit, and assuming that it's open, I don't even know if it's open access software.
Well, there's already other companies that say they are as good or better than ChatGPT, and they claim to be not biased. At least they have different biases, is the point.
That's right. They're going to have different biases. Never think different that none of them are biased. No, there's never going to be anything that's not biased.
Right.
If it's even if it's not man-made, I do not understand how anybody. To me, there's no concept of unbiased. I don't understand the concept.
That's how science works, by the way. Do you agree with that? In your chemistry year, by the way, I have a bachelor's in physics.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go after that. But from what I understand about how science works, the scientific approach, we have bias in everything we do, and we don't know when we're biased. And here's the point: when we do experiments, the point there is to, that goes beyond and ignores, doesn't need the bias. Like, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. There are different kinds of scientists out there. I would argue the ones that there are people that just come up with the hypothesis first, and then they go out in the world and look for data to back up that hypothesis. Doesn't matter how but you see that a lot more often than you probably should.
Some of them are intentionally lying, while some of them are just a little bit dumb.
Yeah, well, they have a lab that has maybe one machine, and they have all these theories about the world, and you can't test that theory very well with one machine. But too bad, because they only have $200,000 a year in research funds. So if you don't want to die,
Feynman talked about this in 1974 during his commencement speech at Caltech.
Oh, did
1974. Okay. He spent his whole hour just talking about what you're saying right there.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I read several of his books. Yeah.
I've thought about that a fair bit. The confirmation bias, or what have you, I think they call it. And I've heard some people speak on it. I have my own view on that one, and I don't see how. I understand the conflict, and I think that you should always be, when you're doing science, and I'm not a scientist, but I'm just saying, if you're when you're doing science, you should always keep in mind the fact that you have confirmation bias.
Right.
But eliminating it, I don't see that possible.
Yeah,
I saw. Let me show you an example. I saw a show one time about when they were doing the excavations in Newfoundland for the Vikings that had hit the shore there You know, and it's pretty much a fact at this point that the Vikings came to America first, and they set up a camp on the shores of Newfoundland. And this is factual at this point. When they were digging that site, when it was still just a possibility, right? They were interviewing this woman archaeologist on site. She's there, and the woman says, "So, do you think these are Vikings?" And the girl stops her, and they're digging this site that they know people had been there, and already the first person that found this site had predicted that it was Vikings, right? So now they're there to actually find this out, and the woman, as they're in the middle of the process, this reporter asks this woman archaeologist, what do you think? Do you think it's Vikings? And she goes, "Hold on, we can't think that. We're not allowed to think that because that would create confirmation bias. We have to approach this as if it could be anything, right?"
Yeah.
And so we're not allowed to think that. Now, I understand the thought process behind that, and they should approach it in that way. But to say that they're not thinking that is a lie to themselves and to everything around them. We all know that they are thinking these are Vikings.
This is why in the medical field, they recognize an issue we have, which is placebo.
Yeah, yes.
And they design experiments to remove placebo, to separate out placebo from non-placebo.
Yeah.
Right.
And placebo's always there.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of where that's connected to the bias concept.
Yeah. And then
that woman was claiming that she had erased that from her mind, and she would not allow herself to think that way. I think that's impossible.
Well, you don't know that she meant that she did it 100% fully with certainty. Yeah. You don't know that she meant that. By the way, it's difficult to speak about these things. Our words are not even good for it.
There's no way you can erase that from your mind. That's just no way that you can drop that as something in the back of your head. Now, you should keep that always in mind, though, that you have this confirmation bias already. Yes. That is, to me, that's the way you approach it. You go, yes. I have this confirmation bias. We have to do everything we can to work to make sure our facts don't look like they're confirming our confirmation bias, right?
Right.
That kind of awareness makes sense. But
she probably meant that, and you're misinterpreting her words.
I could be.
I think you're being unfair.
But yeah, I could be.
Well, I do know that archaeology is one of the most troublesome fields for confirmation bias, and it's gotten a lot better. But I think in like the early days of them excavating like King Tut's tomb and stuff, I mean, they would just like bust down the wall, go in and start loading up gold and bring it back to the British Museum, and then call it history. It had no context at all. I think they found some stuff that wasn't even from Egypt. It was like Chinese gold or something that someone just threw it in the plane. But there's another kind of bias that is interesting because it doesn't originate in human brains. So the big now is like big data collecting for genetics and all kinds of things. But the one I know about is DNA testing. So you have a well-developed experiment, patient that has a disease and a patient that doesn't have a disease, and then you just throw a massive quantity of data, like billions of information lines in it that you could never analyze manually, and there come hits up that are like, this gene is associated with the disease, but the p-value is only like 0.052 or something like that. And people don't know how to analyze the statistics, and they try, I'm sure, but then you have things that are appearing as biased in the scientific literature, but it's really no human's fault. It's just an inherent bias of reality almost. When you have that much data, you're going to see.
Talking about seeing a correlation and then assuming there's a causation?
Yeah, and that happens quite a bit in the literature. And you would think they would be able to.
Well, that's anti-science.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is anti-science, and you don't know how it's so prevalent. When I was at the FDA, they had someone that came in, and he was a professional statistician, but he analyzed like 20,000 papers published by biologists that thought they knew how to do the statistics, and a lot of them used the same methods because that was just the standard for the field. But he came up to an extreme number, like 70% of studies did not meet statistical rigor. If you have a professional statistician do it, because they're biologists, they don't know statistics any more than I know.
I know a little bit of statistics, but they're not. Yeah. They're not statisticians. They're not to that level.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because even the mathematics is biased in a way, the bias of reality. But
yeah. Well, there are biases everywhere.
Well, I mean, to be clear, what statistics is, it's admitting that there's too much data to look at individually by a human.
Right.
And so let us summarize it, but that necessarily means erasing a bunch of it.
Yeah.
So you're intentionally choosing a bias so that you could see something.
Yeah. I mean, they could change it by having the p-values more stringent, but no one ever wants to do that because,
That's the work.
Yeah.
Because then most of their work looks like nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So just to get back on topic here a little bit, did what I wrote there seem at all comprehensible to you guys? Am I getting in the right direction?
When you look at
what you just said is what you wrote.
Yeah, let me look at it real quick. But
I read it this morning, like a couple hours ago, and I feel like everything you just said now was you explaining that essay.
There are certain things I wanted to follow up on, particularly with the political dimension to this and direct democracy. So you use this word liquid democracy, and I hadn't been familiar with that term.
Oh, okay. That's been around for quite a while. So that's where you delegate your ability to vote on certain subjects to somebody else.
Representative democracy.
It's kind of but you get to choose the representative for this specific thing. So if let's say you once again, like medical field, let's say that anything that would need to be voted on as far as that would be in the field of medicine, maybe there's a doctor or somebody in the medical science area that you really respect, and so you can allow them to vote on your behalf.
Oh.
So you respect their opinion.
You can give somebody your votes.
You're giving somebody your votes. Yes, you're allowing somebody else to vote on your behalf. So that's a liquid democracy, and so you get to choose who the experts are.
And this is like per decision, per vote.
It could be in a category, right? So
like it's up to you, I guess.
Which is up to you. It's up to you how you define that category.
So I could give one vote away to somebody, and then all the other votes I keep to myself.
Yes. Yeah. So let's say
category or all of it.
Like a good example is medicine, right? So you decide that anything that has to do with a medical issue, that there's an opportunity to vote on it, that you give the right to this person that has this medical expertise, and you trust them to vote on your behalf, right? So you may do it for an individual thing, just a one-off. You may say that anything in this category you can vote on, and you can do it on my behalf. You can have it set up in a way that when they do it, you are notified to know that they are working within the framework that you want them to, so that you are now being notified, so you can change it after the fact. If they voted for you and then you said, well, I don't believe that, I think they're wrong in that spot, then you can retract that vote.
If I understand correctly, KAOS does this.
Yes. So our system, we want to allow that kind of flexibility, and it will eventually, I think anyway, personally, and this will depend on how everybody feels about it, but I'd like to pass that on to not just other people, but bots. So, I was saying that I suspect that I'll have many bots that I use, right? And I will, use them to access the information and everything. And I may want them to actually vote for me on opinions in the KAOS system in a way that they think that they are doing it on my behalf. So my bots will get to know me, and I will get to know them, and I'll get to know their biases, and they will start to guess at what my decisions might be on various things that I could vote on. And they, at first, way I suspect this will work, is they'll make suggestions. Like, look at this person put this opinion out here. I think you'll like this. You might want to vote on this, right? And then over time, I will see how often they are correct. And eventually I may say, you really understand me well. You are voting, you are picking the right choices. So I'm going to give you the right to do it. And
we're almost individually, each of us, giving power to the AIs that we think are smart.
Yes. Now, once again, they all have biases. So we may think a certain bot is better in a certain area, just like a person is better in a certain area. So, there may be a bot that's far more advanced in medical than any of the other bots. So that may be when I'm constantly working with these bots. And if I think that this one is better in the medical field, then I may want to give it the ability just in that area. And then another one, it might be on, space exploration. Maybe he's way better in that area. So I want to give him the ability to vote on my behalf in those areas. Right?
So let me try to pick this apart real quick. I just thought of a sort of a counter example I want you to address.
Yeah.
Suppose I'm a troll. I want to fuck shit up, and I say, all right, I'm gonna make my own little bot. It's not really a bot that just does this. Go vote on all the opinions in the world and flip a coin 50-50. Vote or don't vote.
Yeah.
And just run that as all my opinions.
Yeah. Once again, though,
that's just somebody having fun.
Yeah. But once again, though, all of these are going to reflect on you. So your future voting is going to be reduced in how people look at you if you're letting your bots run crazy.
Unless you were double anonymous.
But once again, nobody's probably going to look at that unless we're talking about China or something, right? So you're only going to be able. It's very limited. The damage you can do is very limited, right? So anyway, yeah. So this liquid democracy concept can
so is that if say you wanted to implement that to make decisions in the U.S. government, hypothetically, would you run into problems because it's almost like ballot harvesting, right? Like say Barack Obama is running against Donald Trump, and a bunch of people, they just see Donald Trump Jr. On the feed of Facebook all the time. So that there's hundreds of people that say, well, just whatever Donald Trump Jr. votes, that's why I want to vote. And then so would you run into problems like that where you would not have it help democracy, but it would actually hinder democracy because all these people can just with the flip of a switch send their vote and say whatever Barack Obama wants to do, then let him do it.
I don't see how that screws up democracy. I think it.
I'm not saying it has to, but that would just be one concern that you could think about. I'm not saying it's. I'm just saying it's.
Sounds to me like your concern is that people would make bad decisions, and so I mean we run that risk all the time. Now this runs into the reason why people don't like democracy right now. Somebody like Trump wins the election and they go, well, this is proof that democracy can't work, or it doesn't work. We can't use this system because people are so stupid.
And so they want less democracy.
So they're going towards less democracy. And they think that's going to eliminate those problems.
But that makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes it worse. Absolutely.
Well,
now
I agree.
I just want to point out one thing.
Yeah.
That democracy, the way we run it, especially in the U.S., the U.S. has possibly the worst democracy in the world, the least representation from the people, right?
Right.
You're far more of a
republic.
You're way more of a republic than a democracy than any other democracy I know of. So, for example, Australia, they have ranked choice voting, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, they are complaining because they have a Trump-like person that they put in the office. If I've seen them complaining right now. If you actually look at that person, he's nothing like Trump. He's 100%. But everybody talks about everything like it's.
I guess they're saying he's like Trump because they're in the same team, like Republican or alt-right.
He's conservative.
Oh yeah, they're all.
He's a conservative, but he's not even close to being a conservative like Trump is. He's nowhere off the rails like Trump. He's not going out there fucking threatening the whole world. Right?
People call Moody India's president.
They just don't like him. They just don't like him because he's conservative. But he's nowhere near a Trump. And my point is, though, this is the worst they get because they have ranked choice voting. There's no way they could get somebody that, like Trump and Hillary in the beginning, when they both started running, they were some of the least liked politicians that have ever existed. Nobody wanted either of them in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But the party systems funneled them into the top. And we didn't, well, I'm not American, but the average American did not have an option besides those two, right? They were cornered into this situation, and so they picked Trump, right? Now, that's not the way democracy should work, right?
Yeah.
If there was more democracy like ranked choice voting is an interesting system because it makes it so your opponents cannot be so harsh on one another because they want to be everybody's second rank. If they're not their first ranked choice, they want them at least to be the second. And if they put down their opponent and say that they are garbage, then none of their supporters are ever going to put them as their second choice, right?
Yeah.
So this changes the whole field of how it works, right? So
yeah,
anyway,
actually, aren't they getting rid of that in Alaska? I heard that, or they're trying to get rid of it. Maybe they already did. So they're kind of going back. They're going backwards there.
I heard they love it in Alaska. I heard that there was no.
I don't know if it passed or not, but
I'm sure some people want to get rid of it.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
It's the people that want to control things.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm going to look that up now that you bring that up because
I know it was on the. I know it was one of the. You know how they have these proposition initiatives where they actually use direct democracy to make it through the ballot booth. They did have one last election, but I forget if they passed it or not. But it was close. It was like, I want to say at least like closer than 60-40 or something, which is kind of weird. But
I had heard it was solid and that there was no talk of backing out of it.
Okay.
But that's what I'm not up on it 100%. So now I want to do a little more research because from my understanding, everybody there was kind of liking it. So anyway.
So one other question I had, following up on what you just said, the charismatic media figure that a whole percentage of the population just loves, and therefore they say, okay, he can vote for me. I don't want to do anything. Just whoever he votes for. Then that's something like kind of what happened with Elon Musk in the last election, right? He's like super charismatic, big billionaire that has huge media presence, and
Hitler.
Yeah,
I mean, he was very charismatic.
He did the Nazi salute, didn't he?
Yes.
No, okay. I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know the significance of it. I don't know.
Yeah, the Roman salute is the same thing, except for you.
All I meant to say, Hitler came to power because people wanted him. He was charismatic. That's all I meant to say.
Yeah.
There's good guys that do that and bad guys that do that.
Yeah. It's just back to the always having a bias somewhere,
Yeah. So anyway, get back to that first question. No, I believe that these stupid mistakes that people like to use as an excuse to say that democracy is bad are actually indications that we don't have enough democracy, and they're reading it wrong, and that more democracy would actually make less chance of people voting themselves out of a democracy. But at the same time, there is still always a chance that people will vote themselves out of a democracy, right? So to me, that even adds more reason why we need our system. Just like in Taiwan, if a government makes a major change, if everybody's already in our system, it's going to be really hard to remove this democratic second layer that is now, overseeing everything and constantly nagging the new government, going, no, this is what the people want, right? You're wrong there. This is what the people want. So in America, if Trump makes a move to become a dictator, and he starts, says it removes the chance for elections for the next, 10 years or whatever. It says, I need a mandate for 10 years, and then slowly works himself into a dictatorship. We can at least still get the word out about what people want with this second layer democracy. So
can I address a point here that I think maybe Brian L. is worried about?
Yeah.
that Brian C. and I have already talked about. I don't think we talked about it publicly yet, though. So I think what a lot of people's worry is, and I think this is what Brian L. was trying to get at, or at least an angle of it. When you go from a state of a people under dictatorship to all of a sudden state of freedom, what is going to happen is a whole bunch of bad stuff, because those people did not, they did not develop a culture and set of institutions under the dictatorship, and all of a sudden they're free. They're not going to act right. Maybe another 100 years they will. And here's the point. The people that are worrying about, if we go towards more democracy, they're worried about some big bad thing happening, kind of like what you were saying. But I think that is happening because of all the dictatorship and lack of democracy we've had in the past. The solution has to be more freedom so that we can learn it and go forward. Let people learn from their mistakes. Yeah. I want to give a small story on an individual scale, okay, that drives this point. When my daughters were 4 and 2 years old, or 4 and 3 years old, that's when I left my religion and I started learning philosophy, and I learned this parenting philosophy that where I learned this basic, some of these things we've been talking about here. I don't know if you know the concept non-zero sum, Brian L.
Yeah, I did. I read Robert Wright's.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
okay.
I kind of understand it.
So I was learning that, combined with that, punishment is evil, stuff like that, and also shouldn't be controlling people's decisions, so that they can learn from their mistakes. It's a parenting philosophy. It's education. So 4 years old, I don't know how, maybe 4 years old, 5 years old or something, and we're in the grocery store, and this is when I switched. It's like, oh, I should let my kids buy whatever. So then, and by the way, even the concept of letting people do stuff is already fucked up, by the way, because that means you're choosing when to not let them. Anyway, so we're at the grocery store, and my 4 or 5 year old daughter picks out a large bag of marshmallows. And I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And that night, she came to me with a half bag of marshmallows and said, take this from me, hide it from me, and only do one a day. She had puked. She told me she puked. First of all, I was very impressed by this. But I also internally was angry because of two things. One, why the fuck should I do that work? I don't want to do that work. And two, you can't learn if you're going to have me do it for you. I don't think I replied very well, but what I ended up doing was, no, I gave her the bag back. You deal with that.
Right.
I think I would do it differently now if I had another kid or whatever. That age. And she never ate marshmallows again.
Yeah. Well, regardless of how it turned out with the decision afterwards to throw away the marshmallows, you're still a step above the parents that would prohibit them to have the marshmallows in the first place, because then they'll just be, lusting after marshmallows for their whole childhood or something like that.
There was a dam, and then I immediately removed the dam, and there was a huge flush of water, but then it resolved itself really quick.
Yeah.
Now maybe the dam metaphor doesn't really work because there's no human being making decisions. So I don't know.
And I think you're right. And this is a lot of what that last little essay thing I wrote was about, is the fact that as our communications level increases, and that includes democracy, because this is a method that we all communicate. As these things, the noosphere, what I refer to as the noosphere, as it advances, we advance with it, and so we change the way we work, the way we think, and the way we deal with one another as this noosphere advances, and that the fact that we are holding back the noosphere is like just not letting the kids have the marshmallows. And
now imagine that I, instead of at 5 let her have the marshmallows, I did it at 20 or 18 or 16.
Yeah.
Imagine the difference. You guys want to guess what it would be like?
They'll probably get sicker longer.
Let's say I was really controlling.
Yeah.
Like in other countries where they do beatings and shit, really controlling. And of course, America does it too, you know. But at least here, there's laws saying curb the beating or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe successfully for 18, 20 years, I could get her to not eat marshmallows. But as soon as she's gone from my supervision, whatever happens after that is going to be way worse than what happened in this alternate universe where it happened at 5 years old.
That's right.
Now think of the human race.
Yeah.
We're 5 years old now. Let's not wait till we're 19. It's going to be way worse.
Well, this is kind of my point. I think we're already at the teenage years, and we're still dealing with marshmallows, right?
Yes, except they're nukes.
Yeah, yeah. And so, yeah. So, I mean, to me, that's a great analogy. Is that we will not allow humanity to grow up, and we are constantly. That's what a republic is. A republic is overseeing these people because we don't trust them. They're like infants, and we have to make sure that we oversee. But the funny part is, these people are infants too. It's children controlling children, right? We think everybody's like a child, but we are part of that group. So we are children. So it's like, you know, the bratty, or it's like the Karens of the world as kids trying to control the rest of the kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's
it's like all the 5-year-olds are in charge, and they're controlling all the 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds or something.
Yeah. Well, the point is they're not any better as everybody else, and worse so, because they are a smaller. They're working with a smaller group of people, so they're not. You know, the larger the group, the more intelligence that's in that group. And so if we're working with the whole world, let's make it the whole fucking world so it can be as intelligent as it possibly can be. You can't tell me any small group of people is going to be more intelligent than a larger group. You know,
I think it's worth talking about how government should work from a philosophical perspective, the way Karl Popper explained it. And this is the person that I learned the concept of one of the main things you need in a government is a peaceful transition of rulers. Okay. And of course, another basic concept is, distributed decision-making among the rulers.
Yeah.
And check and balancing system between them. That's why in the US we have, a 3-department government underpinned with the Constitution. But we need more of that. Like, it should be every human being. If we have, the reason we couldn't do it in the past was we didn't have the technology. We have,
that's right.
We have 8 billion people.
Yeah.
Go back 100 years. We have 6 billion people. Yeah. And we have ships, and that's how we're sending letters by ships.
Yeah.
That's pretty slow. Today I can write a message and the whole world can see it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And we have data analysis tools. I think we could do it.
We have I know we can. We have the ability.
It's like the printing press analogy, right? That you went into in your article, where there's a lot of serious scholars that think that if the printing press had never been developed, the Enlightenment would never have happened, and we'd still be in the Dark Ages or something.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Or another way to look at it, though, is if the printing press had been far more prolific, earlier on. Like if somebody had invented the printing press back when the Bible was first being written, right? And so it got spread much earlier, and everything, and so we ended up with a free press hundreds of years earlier than we did, right? Where would we be now? We would probably be an unwarring society. There would probably no more major conflicts on this earth because we would have advanced to a point that we just don't do that anymore, right?
It's like imagining where would we be today, or 500 years from today.
Yeah.
In 500 years, maybe we do have less war. It's either that or we killed each other with nukes.
Yeah. Well,
So, Noam Chomsky has a book that's interesting that's called Manufacturing Consent, where he goes through some of the history of, in one of the chapters, he goes through some of the history of the press in America. And he cites some of these like early publications right after the American Revolutionary War, and how politically open-minded they are compared to a lot of media news outlets today. You know, if you just turn on MSNBC or Fox News, it's just generally like one big story a day, heavily biased. You know, they only get one
put
party
on news so they can hide other news. That's how they
work. Yeah. And then back in that day, it was much more fragmented, which I thought was a good thing. And that was, I think, the point of his book, or one of his points of his book, was that instead of there were only 3 big media outlets, there were like 200, right? Yeah. And they all had nuances to their style.
Well,
and
now we're back to having 1 million of them now.
Yeah. I mean, like that ideally,
every podcast.
Yeah, and so hopefully that is a positive development. But it's just weird how, for a while there, because of television, and they could only have like 4 broadcast stations, we had shrunken media access, actually, compared to even the American Revolutionary era. But
Chomsky is an area that really bothers me as far as anarchists go. I like to consider myself to be a bit of an anarchist. I think that the system, this KAOS system, to me, fits into my definition of anarchy.
And after 1 million years, we don't need governments.
Yeah. We're working away from centralized governments. Right? This is a working towards.
And maybe we wouldn't need police because no one's committing crimes.
Or at least less so.
Have you seen the movie Apex?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I did check it out.
I recommend it. APAX. Apex. An alien comes to Earth. Yeah. And because of the way we work, we put him in a mental hospital because he told the truth. He said he's an alien from another planet.
I think I know this one. Yeah,
we put him in a mental hospital.
That was Robert Downey Jr. Was it?
No, Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, Spacey. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
so you thought it. Yeah. And he explained, when the psychiatrist was like, "What do you mean you don't have governments and police?" He goes, "Well, what do you need them for? No one's committing crimes."
Yeah. There's he is ultimately they. Like he becomes the most popular person in a mental hospital, right?
Well, he has people healed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, Chomsky, I actually kind of had a bit of a fight with him once, and I accused him because I know a bunch of anarchists. I used to be part of the Occupy movement here in my city. And anyway, I got to know a bunch of anarchists, and it really bothered me. They did not like my idea at all.
That's weird.
Well, when you get into it, none of them do. I get nowhere.
They're not really anarchists.
Well, in my definition, they're not. So they all love Noam Chomsky, right? Yeah. But they only listen to half of what he says. Right. Only the half that they want.
Right.
So Noam Chomsky, there's 2 main areas, from my point of view anyway, there's 2 main things that he preaches. And one of them is all of your media is tainted. And they're all, trying to convince you of things. It's all propaganda, right? So that's the one story. And the second story is, though, that the people know what they want. And if they were allowed to, they would move the world in the right way. He likes to point out that that a large majority are against conflicts. A large majority are against nuclear weapons. A large majority want to do stuff about climate change. A large majority on Earth. So if we allowed the majorities to have more control, we would move in the right direction. This is despite the fact that media is convincing us of other things, right? He is convinced that the people are correct right now, even though the media is tainting all this data, right? But his book, the other thing he's saying though about the media is tainting the way everybody thinks. That's the only part that the anarchists listen to. They don't they don't listen to him when he says that the people are already thinking correctly despite this, right? He says despite the efforts of the media, and we have to, he talks about they manufacture consent, right, and everything, and they're imposing their will on the people, right? But the people, if you read into exactly what he's saying, they have not convinced all the people. And if we actually measured public opinion, they would be on the right side. So anyway, anarchists believe though that media has tainted everybody, and they have to re-educate everybody before they can give them any power, because they think that they have convinced everybody of the wrong things.
And that is indoctrination.
Well, They think that everybody has been indoctrinated. Yes.
Yeah.
So indoctrinate them more to our side.
Well,
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They have to indoctrinate them the other way. So they do not want democracy because they think democracy will get them Trump, right? They think once again,
but
the
their
same
solution
thing as
to
everybody
it,
else is less
if
democracy.
they understood it correctly, causes more of the problem they're disliking.
That's my point of view. Yes. But
so what do they want? If they don't want fascism or authoritarianism, but they also don't want democracy, so what do they want? I mean, just nothing.
They do want democracy, but not until everybody has changed.
Oh, okay.
They want everybody
to reach that state and just jump.
So the best solution they have, and they've been doing it all along, but it's not getting anywhere, is to set an example. So they have tried to set up communities, anarchist communities, right? And they've kind of been disasters, most of them. But anyway, that they hope to set up a communities in various places. They always talk about this, and then set an example, and then try to convince everybody this is the right way to do things, right? And once they get everybody convinced, then democracy's okay. Right?
Okay.
They don't want democracy until.
So now let's do the example of the 5 or 19-year-old kid. Okay. So the parent is saying, 5 years old, no, you don't know enough. You can't have freedom yet.
Yeah.
10 years old, same thing. Sorry, you're a little bit better, but not yet. Still 100% no freedom.
That's right.
When is it going to happen then?
Exactly. This has been going on since the first.
They're not going to learn anything ever.
This has been going on for generations now, and they're always going, well, they're not ready yet.
They'll die 80 years old and still don't have freedom.
But this is the exact same people, the same thought process that's going on with a republic. The people that feel that we need a republic. They also think, well, we don't need it so bad when people change. We need it now, right? It's an interim thing. We need to control people.
It's kind of like they want to do a slow dismantling of the dam. Is that a good metaphor?
Well, no, this is the point. They say we want to monitor things. And when we think everything's okay, then we will start to do that slow release. They haven't even started the slow release process yet. They're not ready yet.
Well, the dam has leaks. So
it's like
the dam has leaks by nature, right?
Yeah. There's leaking.
And they're trying to control the leaks.
By keeping their thumb in the dam. It's like the Dutch boy.
And poke holes other places that they want.
And as that dam is overfilling, they're constantly going, well, we'll start letting a little out, but not yet. Not yet. They're not ready yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's the old analogy, we won't allow them to grow up, right?
Well, going back to the child analogy, the anarchists are like people, like a kid wants a dog, and the parent says, you can't have a dog yet. I'm going to give you a pet rock first and see if you can take care of that. And when you take care of the rock, then we'll get you a dog. I mean, they're just getting these little communities that are dysfunctional. That's no way to make an example. Like, what was that micro state in, I think it was Portland, Oregon or something? Where they went into a park and claimed it was their own country.
I don't know about it.
Anarchists like to talk as if that was heaven. They like to talk as if, there was a guy that died there. There was fucking all kinds. There was
and there's all kinds of trash everywhere. And people were fighting and all.
If people wanted to look that up, what did they search for? I've never heard of this.
I can send it to you. I think it's it happened in around the same time the George Floyd riots were happening.
Right. It was
connected somehow to that. And they
if you can send me the link, I'll put it in the description, and the people watching find it in the description.
I'll look it up real quick.
You don't have to do it now.
You don't have to do it now. Okay.
Too much longer.
All right. Yeah.
I commend
the other question I had was for you guys is the well, I have two more questions I wanted to touch with before.
Sure.
As long as you have time. The first one was back to the non-zero point. So the idea is that with the implementation of KAOS, then you'll have actual public opinion, and you'll be able to kind of measure equality across the world in terms of outcomes versus right now we have a few major players like the European Union, Russia, China, the US, and all the world's wealth and decision making disproportionately goes to them. But like in the future with this new database of information, then we'll ideally be able to spread the positive outcomes across the world or something. I Because when Robert Wright wrote that book, I thought that's a pretty simple idea. Not a simple idea; it's a very good idea, but it's also it seems like it could only be good. But I was amazed at how many academics.
Let's do a real example. I'd like to do.
Example. Sorry. Okay. So for example,
I have one I'd like to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
So, I watched a documentary about how chocolate is made or where cocoa is gathered from.
Yeah.
And it's something like 60% of all the chocolate in the world, the cocoa is coming from the like one spot in Africa.
Yeah.
And those people, the way they live and the way they work, they don't have any decision making on the entire industry, none of it. Yeah. All the decision making is happening from outside, like UK, US companies. And they're like pricing and all that. Like the people that are doing the work of producing, the farmers, they're not even getting to say, I want to sell it for this rate.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me, okay? And I think that's the kind of thing you're describing.
Yeah, it's like slavery, essentially. If you don't have any choice.
Even though technically it's not slavery, it's like slavery. And I think that's a prime example of what you're describing. The inequality and the way it's working. If we had chaos, I think this would be better. For one thing, people from the outside maybe wouldn't buy that damn chocolate.
Yeah. Right. Yep. They'd have fair trade chocolate organizations or something like that, which they kind of do now on a small scale, but most people don't use them.
It's happening with diamonds now. Diamonds is one of those type of things. Same thing. Congo, I think, where it's hellhole scenario over there. They're not having any decision making in any of it. And there's a lot of murdering and killing even to get those diamonds. But then now, I heard today in America at least, 50% of diamonds now are not that kind, blood diamonds. They are made in a lab.
Yeah.
And part of what drove that, I think, is people being aware of the blood diamonds.
That's right. Yes. Awareness makes all the difference. Yes.
And chaos helps with awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. So back on the those seem all like very good developments. But that non-zero concept, you wouldn't believe how much academic criticism that concept has received. Like, for example, Steven Pinker didn't like the idea of it because he said, well, human beings develop technologies that are extremely destructive, that are new, and like nuclear bombs or something like that. So he said, you were not moving toward a non-zero state. There was all kinds of criticism. I thought was misplaced, that they didn't really understand the arguments, because
I think he's just
that's the kind of thing that
we're not acting non-zero sum.
Yeah, exactly. That's the solution.
We agree with that. We know that.
Yeah. We know that.
And
we're not
non-zero sum is just saying, yes, it's possible for us to be peaceful and work with each other. There's nothing guaranteeing us or forcing us. Nature is not forcing us to fuck each other in the ass. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
Well, personally, I don't think that, if you're really getting down to the nitty gritty, there may not ever be an interaction that's 100% non-zero. But I think the point is to get closer to it. We are we're so far from it now, right? And
we're better than maybe 50,000 years ago, though. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And better than like 200 years ago in the U.S., where all sorts of things, sorts of abuses that were normalized back then and not even illegal are now not normalized and illegal. And there's more to find.
Yeah. There's a lot of abuse. I find it to be a bit of a catchphrase, but I like it. The non-zero is a good, I think, a good analogy, a good way to look at it. But it is a catchphrase in the sense that there's lots of other ways that you could frame this. There's another guy, Daniel Schmachtenberger, who's actually more of a right-winger. And he actually talks about, he frames it under the guise of what do you call it? Non-competitiveness or the rivalry, anti-rivalry. We're too rivalrous of a society, and that what we have to do is remove rivalry. And so very much like an idealistic family, there's rivalry within families, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in a more idealistic family, there's less of it. And what he's saying is that the rest of society, if we treated them all more of an ideal family situation, we would have less rivalry with them. To me, that's almost exactly the same thing as saying non-zero. It's just another way.
It's saying we're all humans, we're all one.
Yes, and if we all, to me, it all fits into. I mean, I don't like to consider myself
and I would include aliens, by the way.
I don't like to consider myself a communist, but I do believe that is the direction we want to move in. Like I don't, and to me, the ideals of communism is non-rivalry and non-zero, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I kind of put them all in the same category. Some terms are far more sound more aggressive than others. So I don't like to use the term communism because it's a lot of people get a bad taste in their mouth with that term. So I like the term. I like to use non-zero a lot better. Or if I'm working with a more right-leaning crowd, I think that I would probably use the term non-rivalry. And different terms for different people tends to help. But anyway, to me, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. Yeah. And it comes down to the family unit. If we can treat everybody more like the ideal family unit, then we will all be in a better position, right? Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to say that to me, that's all the same thing. And but they're all the right way, the right direction.
There's another way to attack this that I learned from Ellie Goldratt. He's a business management guru. His initial education was physics. And actually, when he was 20 years old, he decided he wants to teach the world how to think. And I think he did very well. Yeah. Anyway, he's dead now. But what he explained, what I understood from him was this basic concept that, you have a group of people, and the ones that are worst off, you don't want to do nothing and just let them fall out or die or whatever, because helping them stay in improves the whole system. Yeah. And if you let them die and fall off, it makes the system worse. Yeah. So that's a very, and in practical terms, it's stuff like, hey, let's make things so that it's very difficult to be homeless. Yeah. Let's, sometimes provide fucking homes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that you can, and more than that, therapy, training, a computer, internet, to get them reintegrated into society, that will make the whole society better. Having 80,000 homeless people in Los Angeles, that is not good for the society. If we help them not be that way, it would be better. I feel like
yeah. And I guess. In an ideal family situation, you would never allow your loved one to stand up in that situation.
Right. And to be clear, this is on a human scale. There's a anthropologist, I think that's the type of ologist she was asked, what's the first piece of evidence indicating human civilization? And what she said was fossilized healed bones, where somebody got hurt and normally they would have died. Yeah. That's what happens in the animal kingdom. Yeah. But the tribe protected them, fed them, and the bone healed, and then so that we're taking care of the group. Yeah, right. And even though we switched from the old system of tribes to a new system of nation states, we should still be doing that. Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous that we got rid of it.
Yeah. The nation state system has a lot of downsides because I think it promotes lack of community, even in things like insurance. I was talking after those fires in Los Angeles happened. I was talking to one of my friends that works for an insurance company, and he said the reason that all the insurance left that neighborhood, or a lot of it did, and now people are stuck without any place to stay, is because California has laws at the state level that prohibited it. The most insurance companies cost prohibited them from insuring really expensive communities. And maybe 90% of people in the fire-stricken areas were rich Californians, but there were still legacy people, third generation residents that were poor, even in those, super dense neighborhoods, but they couldn't get insurance because of California state laws. And he said the better system would have local insurance markets, or maybe not even geographically localized, maybe insurance markets that are based on other things, but because
more freedom in insurance.
Yeah. Because the whole state is just too big of a geographic entity, and it's too heterogeneous in terms of the people that live there to make an insurance market.
More decisions should be at the local level, and this is an issue in the U.S. From the start of this country, we've been going towards more and stronger federal government and weaker state governments, and I guess the same thing with the city and state. It's been going more centralized instead of in reverse. And of course, chaos, we're trying to bring it down to the individual person level.
Right, I mean, it depends on the decision. If you're making decisions about insurance, it should be definitely handled probably at a local level for something like fire insurance. But, it depends on the unit of, like, if we're talking about whether the U.S. should develop bigger nuclear bombs, that's something everyone in the world should make, right? Because definitely
U.S. should be world, yes.
Yeah,
that's exactly the point of a UN. Now, I'm not saying I agree with tons of things the UN does, but I know some of it is good, and we can improve it.
The UN is a good idea. It's just not well implemented at the moment.
Some of it is. Some of it is.
Yeah. Some of it.
You can't deny that it's had some very good positive effects.
I think so too. Yeah, I would not abandon it. It needs to expand. It needs to expand debate. Make it get better. Improve it.
Piecemeal improvement. Yes.
Yeah.
You can't. I don't know if it's worth saying, but this is more government philosophy stuff. You have to treat it as in the same way we do in science, which is you don't know where the flaws are in your knowledge. So to improve on your knowledge, you have to do it in a piecemeal way. When you design an experiment, you don't test 10 variables at once. You do one fucking variable, keep the other ones constant. You have to learn government policies the same way.
I think
the extreme opposite of that is destroy the entire government and make a new one.
I think the variable thing is interesting because one of the downsides of our relatively short, what I would call short presidential cycles, is that every 4 years, the entire department's just completely blown up. And then you have to go to the next president to wait for them to re-put it back together. They think it's just like, I don't know.
Well, already, part of the problem is the federal government's already too big. A lot of those institutions are runaway institutions acting on their own. Extreme example, CIA.
Yeah, they don't even have any communication.
It gathers intelligence without telling anyone what it's gathering and not having to tell anyone else, even Congress. Then it decides what it's going to do about that intelligence. Then it executes its own orders. Without anyone having to see any of that, all in one entity. That doesn't make sense. It should not be that way.
No,
That's the federal government, and that's under the president.
Yeah. I guarantee you that we're doing stuff around the world that we have no idea about.
We do know at least the last, 50 years ago stuff. And yes, we don't know what's happening today. Yes.
So the final question I had was,
and then,
you can finish up however you want, but the uniting the cults. I was curious about the. Maybe that's for another time. That could be for another time. That we could.
I can say a little bit, and then we could do another podcast.
Okay.
If you want to talk about that.
All right.
Yeah. So, how did this work? I met Bryan. Do you remember how we met? Somewhere in Reddit.
Yeah, I chased you down. You had made a comment someplace that gave me the impression that you might be open-minded to some.
But it was not related to uniting the cults, right?
Had nothing to do with uniting the cults. No, it was Destiny. It was Destiny's talking with.
Oh shit! I remember that. Okay, that was before I started uniting the cults.
Yeah. Well,
what uniting the cults is, it's an organization I founded back in April. So 10 months now. It's a fancy name, but I'll tell you the concept first. We're trying to get rid of the apostasy laws around the world. The main one being death penalty for leaving your religion. The worst form of punishment, or one of the worst forms of punishment.
Oh, sure.
I'm an ex-Muslim, so this is dear to my heart. And I believe the main obstacle to achieving this goal, and I think it's the same obstacle to achieving a lot of different goals, big ones. The main obstacle is to do with truth seeking and propaganda. or in the way Richard Feynman said it, we live in the scientific world, but we do not think scientifically. And he used the term cargo cult science, and cargo culting as a verb now, which is to refer to not really doing science, you're doing pseudoscience. And you could use it for anything and everything, cult type behaviors, similar to the cargo cults. And so on my podcast, I started a podcast in order to help with the organization, and that means it's mainly education, to educate the audience, but also for me and our people to get educated. Like Bryan being on my podcast is educating us on things I've never heard of before. I didn't know people were working on this kind of stuff.
Well, nobody was.
Nobody was. Well, they are.
Totally different ideas.
Yeah, different ideas. But even the concept of noosphere, I never heard of that.
Yeah, I never heard of that either. Yeah,
I never heard of that. Non-zero sum, I heard of. I didn't hear about Robert Wright. Yeah. So, and part of what we're doing is I want to platform other people doing similar things, and I believe KAOS would help. If KAOS was here, it would help uniting the cult's main objective.
Yes.
So that's why I'm helping Bryan.
Yeah. I think if the Muslim world had a better idea of how strongly they felt about these blasphemy laws, it may be helpful. At least that when it gets to the point that they start to shift. Also
from the outside world, look, I say this now very clearly. The main obstacle I'm talking about isn't happening in the Muslim majority countries. It's happening outside by the big players, U.S., Israel, Russia, Iran. Well, Iran is inside of it, I guess. But it's the big players, controlling what's happening in these countries, the Muslim majority countries that still have these apostasy laws. So, Bryan, L, I'd like to have you on my podcast, maybe, if you want to talk about United Cults. Maybe over email we could talk about or decide kind of narrow down a topic. Unless the topic is you just want to learn about my organization and what we're doing.
This is like kind of a fire hose of information. I'll process it for a few days, and I definitely want to learn more about it. How I can help. That'd be something I have to think about.
Awesome. Well, shit. Then I really want you on the podcast. Then.
Okay.
Even if look, just doing the podcast with me is a form of help.
Okay. All right.
Because it's another video people can watch and. Back to KAOS though. If you want to continue the dialogue, we could have more episodes like this, of course. But other than that, there's now a Reddit subreddit, KAOS Now. Nothing's happening in it yet. But if you wanted to talk to me and Bryan over text quicker than these episodes that we're doing here, then I'm happy to talk with you there. I'm sure Bryan is too.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll check out the subreddit, and if you ever have more material that comes up that might inform me more about KAOS, and you feel free to send it to me, and I'll send you my phone number, and you already have my email, so I'll send that both to you. And then
to be clear, if you want to stay updated on Bryan's writing about KAOS, he's using Slack for that right now.
Okay.
Substack.
No, Substack.
Substack. Yeah. I did read a couple of the articles on there. Yeah.
What's your name on Substack, Bryan?
Me.
No, Bryan.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I don't. Yeah, I don't have one.
Well, I'm not sure how that works. I think it's under KAOS. It's I know my name is registered there, and then it tagged me as something KAOS.
There's a link in the Reddit futurology post that I think you put up there that directs it directly to you. So if I think that's the easiest way to find. That's the way I found it. If you know that thread, futurology, Rami.
No, I don't have.
Don't have that. Okay, yeah, I can send you the link because I have it.
Damn it. Let's see. Maybe I can look on my phone real quick. Where the hell is my phone? Oh, I just want to put it on screen.
Here, let me. I'll go take a look here. Hold on.
Yeah. I don't have Substack. Right.
All right, it's got me here as KAOS over control.
So Chaos over control.
Yeah, all small letters, no gaps.
Oops.
chaosovercontrol.substack.com.
So what are your next steps for the KAOS project? Immediate next steps?
Well, I want to. The main next step is to get the website up. So that's going to. I assume Rami is going to really help be very involved with that. He's offered to help get the. I am not a tech person at all. No programming skills or anything like this. So I need help in this area. And
I helped Bryan make a Did we make a YouTube yet?
I saw something.
Make all these types of things that he needs to get KAOS out there.
Yeah.
I'm also helping him right now make an essay. I don't know how long we're gonna take, but I'm helping him make an essay.
Well, that's what I'm trying to start there. That I said
I could.
So
I could.
Give me any kind of feedback you can on that, and I'm going to continue. You can see I have a bunch of bullet points. That's stuff I haven't added yet. Okay. So I'm going to try to get that all worked into a nice essay there of some sort. And I'm hoping that's going to be kind of an introduction to the whole program. I
could see multiple essays, though. A first one, a second one after they learn that. I could see easily. I already envision 2 right now. I'm sure there'll be 3 or 4 or 5 in series.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of implications for science and medicine and technology that I might be able to, since I have advanced degrees in chemistry and biology and medicine, that I could probably contribute something along those lines if you needed help on some kind of paragraph that touches on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Think of it this way too, Bryan C. When you have enough essays, now you have a book because each one is a chapter.
Yeah. So I'll carry on the way I'm going right now, and I'll keep forwarding this information to you guys, how I'm writing. And then I would like you to critique it in any way you can, or try to direct
I think you should do it in the subreddit.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll post it all there.
Email is fine, but I think subreddit is better so other people can see it. Sure. Also, right now, the subreddit looks dead. There's nothing in it. You need to put stuff in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea. I'll put it there, and all the guys let you know that I posted.
Yeah, because there's no reason to have any of our conversation to be private or hidden. We're trying to make a system that's transparent.
Unless you're going to get scooped by someone, that's the only thing that academics usually worry about. Like, what if we put it out there too soon and then we get scooped? But that would be the one concern.
I'm not worried about that. I think the person that is knowledgeable enough to scoop us would join us.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If anybody actually, if I found anybody doing. This is kind of key.
You would join them.
I would join them. I've been looking for over a decade.
And you would quit this whole project.
I would quit the whole thing, and I would join them. I've been doing this for a whole decade, and that was at the beginning. That was my whole thing. I was looking for somebody doing something similar, and I could not find anybody that were doing anything without controls. They always end up putting in controls. I've been monitoring every effort that I've ever seen from anybody trying to change our government. And I will converse with them if they will allow me. And I'm always a critic because I'm always pointing out the flaws in their system. And the same flaw shows up in every one of their systems is that they're adding a means of control. The most classic control. Yeah. Within the system. Within the system. The most classic one that almost all of them try to do is have some way of controlling your education prior to your voting on anything. They want you to after you read these paragraphs, then you can vote. After you've done this or gone through that quiz or whatever. And these are all methods to taint your opinion prior to your voting. That's control, right? Unless there's a million sources all willing to educate you prior with different ideas before you vote, well, then that would be more even. But any one entity telling you what you should learn before you can vote, that's control. And it's an obvious form of control. And most people aren't going to buy into a system like that.
And the people that think that way, do they recognize that they are wanting control? Does the word control enter their mind?
Never. It's always an ongoing discussion that I have to go through, and it's almost always the same every time, where they keep claiming it's not control, and then they'll bend over backwards to explain how it's not control, and then I'll very simply, it's obvious, it's almost always very obvious, I'll point out their obvious mistake in their
and
thinking.
How it is control.
And it is control. And they get stuck in this control loop,
and that's when they give up talking to you.
Yeah, and then they'll block me or just ghost me, right? When it gets to a point that they feel that they don't have an answer that can satisfy that, then they just drop it.
Standard procedure, all sorts of discussions.
There's a history on Reddit of my doing this. If you look up Flux was I think the subreddit's still up. The organization has died. They were at a group in Australia that were trying to put in more of a direct democracy system, where their candidate that was running in the election at the time had said that we will put everything on the internet and everybody can vote on it, and then I will vote in accordance to what everybody puts on the internet, right? And the Pirate Party has done that too. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pirate Party. They've done very well in Iceland. They actually have representatives in Iceland right now. They won the elections or won positions in their governments. And but their guys, the whole plan at the beginning was, once again, everything they're going to vote on, they were going to put online. Everybody could participate, and they would reflect that in their voting. They could never do it because they never got participation. They put everything online, but hardly anybody participated. They had to come out with a statement shortly after they got into their positions. They had to put out a statement saying that we're going to have to work this like every other representative because we're not getting high enough participation. So
but we could have tried it longer, right?
I think they're still doing it. I think they're still trying. They're putting it online, but every time they still have to go, well, this is only 1% of the population or less. So we cannot base our decision based on that.
Though.
That's surprising.
They are still trying. They are still trying. They haven't got stopped.
That's good.
So the Flux system was the same kind of scenario. And then the guy, I argued with him about, because once again, they did want to have education programs and stuff like this prior to your voting and everything. So I'm pointing out all the problems in their system. And the biggest problem is participation. Now, I'm handling participation. All of these organizations, if you wanted to vote on something, you'd have to go to their webpage and then go through their menu and then find the issue that you're looking for, and then go there and then look at all the different proposals and then vote on it, right? My system is you press, you click on your app there or whatever, you make it, you state what your opinion is, and you hit send, and you're done. It's a world of difference. There's no landing page. There's no menus. There's none of that. You just blatantly just put your opinion in there. And while you're doing this, other opinions are going to show up. And now you can vote on those instead if you want. But the point is, though, as close to being one click away as absolutely possible, first of all. The second thing is, and this is critical, whenever there is something to vote on right now, it's never like if somebody calls me up and they want they're doing a poll and they ask me a bunch of questions. I haven't thought about it. I have no answers for them.
Yeah.
Right? When you think the way my system works, the way the KAOS system works is when you have the idea, you've been thinking about it, you've already come to a conclusion. Nobody has asked you a question. You didn't have to wait until the opportunity comes up to put your opinion in there. As soon as it pops into your head, you can put it in there.
Yeah.
That's a world of difference. You're not waiting until the question is asked. You're not waiting for somebody to call you. My God, I've been waiting my whole life to tell you this.
And also they call you and they say, can I have 30 minutes of your time? I have about 100 questions.
Yeah.
No, I have to go to work. Fuck off.
Yeah, nobody's got time for that shit. But when you see Elon Musk do the fucking Heil Hitler on fucking TV, I bet you have something to say about it. And at that moment, you could do it.
Yeah.
That is a world of difference.
That would have been a billion KAOS.
There would have been a billion people that our site would have blown up. It would have blown up. Right? Our site is going to run on trending. Whatever is trending is going to drive our system, right? So
well,
if it blows up big
trending
enough,
is
we can
based
end it
on
all.
our bots, though.
Huh?
It's not like a Facebook where what's trending is 100% determined by the Facebook algorithm. In our system, the trending is not by KAOS; it's by the users and their AI bots.
Yeah.
It's more like regular human culture.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, like Google has like a system where they have every single person has their cookie installed on their machine that kind of filters the content. The logic being that you want to see things that you looked up in the past more often. But that just, the criticism of that, it just creates an echo chamber. And that can happen with KAOS, but it's less likely to because
we're not
you can control.
categorizing.
It'd be like if you could control the Google algorithm and say like, no, I don't want that operating. I just want you to see your objectives.
Right. You can tell your AI bot, no, I don't want you to act that way, or get a different one.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, because I think that's the big problem with information media now. There's so many communities out there that are just echo chambers, and going back to that's how people don't interact like that. It's not like I leave here and I only go to McDonald's every single day, or I only go to Taco Bell every single day, or something like that. And you only meet people that go to there. That happens, and usually it creates cults and stuff because people only get their social interaction through one organization. But
yes, yeah. When you place your opinion in our system, depending on what it is, people are not going to look at it like it's coming from a lefty or a righty. They're going to look at the opinion itself, and they're going to express themselves based on that opinion alone. So it really removes the whole echo chamber thing a lot.
Depending on the AI bot you use, suppose one person says, I always want to see all the identity labels of the person, like he claims to be Republican, he's black, stuff like that. And then you'll have some people that are maybe like, I don't want to see any of the identifying markers. I just want to see a human opinion.
Yeah. But I think
you tell your AI bot to do that. I
think you still will get a lot of people going outside their comfort zone because it's voting on things that they would not normally. Really, to me, a good example. I don't know how you guys feel about this one, but liberals, I find it a funny area, and this is very small potatoes, but people have made it out to the hugest thing, right? And it's transgender people playing in women's sports. And I could see both sides of that argument, but to me, it does not. First of all, it is true that it's only like a handful of people, maybe even only like 3, in the whole world that this is affecting. Like it's
well, no, it's affecting all the women.
Well, it is, yeah. And I'm on the side of, personally, I consider myself to be very liberal. And and everything, but I'm on the side that no, they shouldn't be. They're screwing up women's sports. There's a reason you made women's sports, right? Anyway, when I talk
is to rule out male testosterone.
Yeah. There's a reason otherwise, then why have designations between women?
Right.
And
we would have just had one.
Yeah. We just have one, and in some cases they should be. But anyway,
like chess.
Yeah. When I talk to somebody,
although they separate that. There's men's chess and women's chess, right?
Yes,
That's ridiculous. How does that make sense?
It only makes sense under the guise of participation. Women are intimidated by men, so they don't want to put.
They can go in there with a bunch of cleavage and fuck the dude up.
They do have their advantages, yeah. So,
well, I mean, this is going to sound very sexist.
They started a women's league in chess just to get more women to participate. Women do move. The ones that are good enough will move into the regular chess.
Oh, that is allowed. I didn't realize. Okay.
Oh yeah, they're allowed to play there.
Okay.
But they wanted to make a category, and so sometimes it's not so much that they have advantage or that they can't compete. It's just that they're not, and so we want to make a more, friendly environment.
Yeah. If I was a woman, I wouldn't want to be around a bunch of men who are generally probably more misogynist than a lot of other groups. Basically, the more men in a field, the more misogyny you have.
That's right. Yes. Very intimidating to go in there and try to deal with these people.
On the other hand, there are things I would say that as a man, I would not be able to compete with them generally in women. Because like, just, and not just me, like just men in general. Like, I don't know what a good example is, but their fingers have higher acuity and they have more social skills and stuff like that. Versus men are, I guess, more mathematical.
General, they're better at raising kids.
Yeah, better at raising kids is a good example.
That's like I think that's the most important task there is.
Probably.
Yeah. How are you going to make the next adults? That's the point.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point though,
reading's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. The point I wanted to make though is that liberals are very shy. I think most liberals think that transgender men probably shouldn't be in sports, but they don't speak up because they're working in their bubbles, and they know
they're afraid of sounding bigoted.
Against. Sounding bigoted. So, but if there's an opinion on our site on KAOS, if a conservative were to put an opinion that women should not be competing, or that transgender should not be competing in women's sports, I think it would be. I think liberals would be more likely to express themselves there that they are correct, even though that is somebody from the other side. But they're not having to go to a conservative subreddit to do that. They're not having to go to. It's not a conservative having to post in a liberal subreddit to do that. You know what I mean?
It'd be like if you combine 5 subreddits into one page and they have just random opinions.
Yes. So this gives them an opportunity to express themselves outside of their bubble without it being obvious to everybody in their bubble, right? Everybody in their bubble could look it up and see who in their group have done things outside what they don't like. And Reddit is famous for this. I mean, I can't stand the fact that you'll get canceled from one subreddit because you actually participate in another subreddit. To me, that's insane. That is a horrible trend. I go on conservative subreddits because I want to know how they're thinking. There's a reason I'm there, and I'm downvoting their stupid ideas.
And then you get penalized,
and then I go
because
on
they assume you like them or something.
I go on the liberal subreddit, and they'll cancel me because I've been on a bad subreddit.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
I remember I went to I used to go to this evolutionary biology subreddit, and I consider myself not an expert, but I know quite a bit about evolutionary theory, and their mods were really crazy. They would, if you didn't like in somewhere in your post, well, I don't know. I don't know if it was all the mods, but there was one in specifically that if there was anything in your post to suggest any skeptical attitude toward any element of the theory of evolution at all, I mean, you could accept evolution as being true, and then you say, well, I don't think this like animal really evolved this way because reason.
That's weird because
that he immediately kick you off.
That's weird because there's been and still is plenty of disagreement on the minor issues within the theory of evolution.
Yeah.
And that is how it progresses. That's why our theory of evolution is not the same one that was created, 200 years ago by Darwin.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This is actually unscientific to do this,
I think as far as the tags too, the tag issue, it's not like someone's going to be on there and give you 2 or 3 opinions, and then just because they all happen to be conservative, now this person is labeled as a conservative for life. It probably would take like a significant amount of material before you said, okay, this guy's just a right-wing blowhard, right, or something like that. That is very different than Reddit too, because sometimes you can go on Reddit and just post one opinion, and now they've labeled you as, politically biased, and then everyone just piles on, right? So that's a different way. I don't know how you're going to design the tagging feature, but
we don't want tagging.
No tagging at all. Okay.
The user AI side,
right? Yeah. Now there is tagging from your own perspective. You are going to train your own AI to say, so you may very well, and this would be kind of stupid of you, but you may very well say, I don't want to see any conservative opinions, to your AI. And so everybody that your AI now labels as a conservative is going to be out of your feed, right? Or out of the realm of the information you're getting. So every individual has the ability to tag people as being bad or good or whatever, right? But it's individually. you cannot tag it, so everybody else sees that this person is whatever you think it is. Right?
Yeah, we can't have tags because then we're making the judgment about who gets labeled under a tag.
That's right.
And that's not how it works. That's not how tags work.
We cannot do any judgment at all in our system.
Yeah. I just didn't know if there was a people are going to have different attitudes toward it, I guess. Like, you'll have people that right out of the gate don't want to hear anything conservative, and then you'll have people that are extremely open-minded and they can hear any opinion. I mean, that's what I try to be.
Tell your AI that if you want.
But yeah. So you're telling that to your own personally AI. There's nothing in the system of chaos, the central system of chaos, that sorts that at all. Okay.
And
and if you think that your AI is doing a bad job of that, that's where you have more than one, right? And you compare them, right? And you see if you do want some people tagged in certain ways, right, as being smarter maybe, right, or whatever it might be. Yeah. If you want to label people in certain ways, your AI can do that. And if you don't find this AI doing a good job, or is tainting it in certain ways, you try another AI, right? And that's where it's up to you to use your own system for analyzing this data, and you will have lots of options, right? So anyway, but there will be tagging, but it won't be from us.
Gotcha. That's good.
And some of it may come from the provider, like whatever search engine or AI you're using, maybe tagging stuff without you're even knowing it. But once again, that's where we have the option of trying other AIs and comparing them, and it's going to be a learning curve for everybody, right?
I mean, I guess we're also putting opinions on certain AIs, right?
Yeah, it's the same as, like I said, same as when you're dealing with your friends or your influencers or whoever, right?
Yeah,
they're all going to be different. And
I wonder if you could comment on this. One thing of the Chat GDP that I've seen have a problem is if it doesn't know an answer, or it's just the algorithm can't find the answer, then it'll just spit out something that's obviously wrong.
Hallucination.
Like, it's a hallucination. But I thought it was like rare, but it happens literally all the time in certain areas, especially. Like if you look at quote, you say, where is this quote from? Which book? It very frequently will not give the actual book. It'll give a related book. Like, I don't know, another one of the same author's fictional books.
It does way worse than that. I gave it a couple of my essays and told it to summarize it. And look, my name is in there, okay? And it said the wrong name for the ideas, and it named some. Okay, my name is Rami Rustum. It said Rami, some other last name. Who's that person? It's not even related to the concept.
Right. Yeah.
Random shit it's saying. Random shit.
Has anybody tried the Chinese one?
I tried it a little bit, and I gave it some questions that I would normally ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT answers, even if it's bad. This DeepSeek, I think it's called.
Yeah.
It refused to answer me 3 separate times,
really,
on 3 different things, giving the same cookie cutter reason for why I can't answer.
Was it political or what?
No. It was something like, I don't remember anymore. I could probably go do it again, but it didn't say anything special. It was like, you know how ChatGPT, if you were to ask ChatGPT, can you think like a human? It will say, well, I can think, but not like a human. It's almost just not giving an answer. Yeah. And this is what it did. DeepSeek was like, well, I can't do that. I don't know. But that's better.
Yeah.
ChatGPT just gives shit answers.
Yeah.
I'd rather
circular reasoning. I can't think like a human because I'm not a human. Duh. It doesn't give any information.
Yeah.
Well, that's a answer it's programmed to give. That's part of the issue. It's a systemic control.
Yeah. Another big black hole for.
If I ask ChatGPT, hey, I want to figure out, or I want to run a test to determine if you can reason. Well, that bypasses the systemic control. I was able to do this, and we talked for a long time doing this, and it bypassed the systemic control, which tells ChatGPT to just say, "I don't think like a human." Yeah. Even though you can get around it because it has some smarts, and you can use that universal smartness to bypass any of its pre-programmed blockades. I've done it with Islam. the normal reply ChatGPT gives about Islam is to defend it, but I'm able to get it to tell the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Partly because I know a bunch about Islam.
Well, it's also because it wants to appease you too, though. All these things are trying to appease you, so it's trying to give you answers you want to hear.
Well, but you can do things in a way where the person you're speaking to or ChatGPT you're speaking to doesn't know what I want to know.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't know what I'm. You know what I mean? Like I'll say something like, I'll say it like this: I heard from someone that the Quran says this evil thing, and then it'll explain a little bit. And instead of me saying what I know is that it's wrong about, I'll just ask more questions, acting like I'm dumb, and then it comes with the right answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't ask leading questions.
Yeah.
It's a scientific method you can follow. The same thing you know, the all the science behind generating poll questions, it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
You don't want leading questions, that kind of stuff. Anyway,
Well,
hey guys, I gotta get going. This was really good. I'm gonna publish this in a week or something.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot for including me again, and we'll stay in touch. And you guys are fun to talk to. So it's not a whole lot of people that would be able to have this conversation, I don't think. But so thank you very much.
And Bryan L., I just want to mention one other thing to you. It was something that you should consider very, very deeply. This is very fringe, what we're talking about here. Very, very fringe. And it's not popular. This is not a popular idea. You know, this has been a real hard stretch. I'm starting to get the narrative down in a way that I think I can convince people that this is a good idea. But it is not popular at all. And it could taint your career. You are in a scientific... I am not an academic. I don't have to worry about my reputation, right? I'm a welder. They will still hire me as a welder, no matter how stupid or crazy of a fucking thing I talk about, right? I could be talking flat earth, right? Doesn't matter. They'll still hire me as a welder. If you're talking flat earth, you will probably never get another science job in your life.
Well, let's ask him. Bryan L., is that how it works?
I think I already have said enough controversial things in my academic career that I'm pretty much I wouldn't say rock bottom, but I think it's not like I'm starting out. There's already plenty of people that hate me, so this will just be add a few more, I guess.
Well, that's good news. So you must be at an institution that's okay on this topic.
It's unavoidable, like just on little technical details about how the paper was published or who you worked for. It's not like I shot anyone or something, but there's just in-group, out-group in academia. Unfortunately, they had this chart one time there. They went through all the publications in a certain field, and then there was another field that was basically the same subject matter. It was just ran by different people, like Europeans versus Americans. And over time, as those two fields developed, they became more and more insular, and the idea qualities were worse and worse and worse because of that reason. And it was, some of them were just being flat out rude to the other people. Like they didn't invite me to that conference, so I'm going to retaliate and not invite them to my conference, or I worked with your boss and your boss was an asshole, so you're an asshole too. That kind of thinking where you're almost torpedoing.
Can I ask what the field is?
That was some kind of area of biology. Well, I mean, I don't know if this was it or not, but there's biochemistry and there's chemical biology and there's chemical physiology. And objectively, those
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, this happens in psychology too, where they have these groups of psychologists that were actually evolved from earlier ones. So like, let's say a bunch of people liked Freud and a bunch of other people liked Carl Jung, and then they end up with another couple of generations later, they have their own group, and they don't talk to each other much.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
our group, you guys are wrong. We're right, but they're addressing the same topics. You should be talking to each other.
Jung started out working for Freud, and they were very close, and they had some kind of falling out that they never recovered from, and their academic descendants have done the same thing. So it's like a Family Feud or something.
Yeah. Man, it's funny.
But I don't understand why this idea would be controversial. Like, I mean, you mentioned several times that people didn't like it or it wasn't popular, but to me, it seems relatively positive development that you can't really. There's not a lot of holes into it.
Well,
So I don't know.
For everybody that thinks that democracy got us Trump, they're going to think you're crazy, and that's a lot of people. That's the majority of the population, right? Yeah. So I want you to think about this. I'm not going to do it yet, but we are this organization here. We lack credibility. I'm a welder, right? So this does not help our credibility. If we could, I would very much like to mention that we have a scientist involved, and I would advertise that if it's okay with you. Yeah. So I'm not going to push.
And we need to actually network and get more people like you. We need programmers. We need scientists. So many different fields. We need people that know about politics. More like been in politics. Imagine we had some of those. We have nothing like that right now.
So this is a big deal that you want to help us. And I could understand if you wanted to keep more of a silent, still be involved, but not be out in the open. I would understand that entirely. But if you are going to be willing to be out in the open, I want to use you. I want to use the fact that you are in a more professional area of the world, in academia. We want to use that as a selling feature for our product.
It's also a source of information. He's gonna know. Brian L is gonna know things about his fields and scientific fields in general.
Yes.
Even though I got a degree in physics, and I haven't been in any science atmosphere since college. This is 25 years ago. So, you have information about those institutions and how they could be helped with KAOS that me and Brian C wouldn't know.
Yeah. I'll be glad to help. Yeah, you don't have to worry about putting my name out there or anything. You can go ahead and do that. I don't have any personal baggage or any objection to it. Most people there's a lot of people these days that run their own X blogs and stuff that work as doctors at major universities. And as long as they don't go completely off the deep end,
we don't know what the rails are.
That's exactly it. Some people will think this is off the rails.
Yeah.
Some people are going to think that.
It's not I guess when it gets more dicey is when it would be like if you're working in climate change and you have a blog that actively talks about how there's a flat earth and there's no climate change on the flat earth, then that might be a professional problem. But since this is almost peripheral to my main line of work, which is chemistry and medicine, I don't see any problems. Because it's really what you're describing has, I'm sure, tons of applications in medicine for the reasons I was already stating. Like the existing AIs kind of stink in that area, and also for medicine, you want to have individual doctors' opinions. And that would be this is a good format to address that, because sometimes if you use the AI, it'll just give you extremely general stuff that was put out by the FDA, and there's no insight at all because it's not talking to physicians. It's just scraping the whatever the CDC's guidance.
Imagine, guys, and I don't want to talk about it a bunch. I think we should stop right now. But imagine how COVID-19 and the aftermath would have been different if KAOS was in place.
Yes.
You could see in real time.
Not our opinions, but the doctor's opinions.
Right. Yeah. The doctor's opinions. You could have seen what the actual consensus was, not what the media told you the consensus was. And another thing you could have done is the media is making the claim that all kinds of people are dying in nursing homes. Is this true? If we look at opinions from nursing home workers, is that really, or is that just hype? So
yes. Actual accurate data is going to make a big difference in all these things. Yes.
Okay, guys, that's it.
All right. Thanks a lot. You have a good one.
Man, it's been fantastic, guys. I really want to thank you. I'm going to, I'll keep you updated with my writing, and please fill me in if there's anything in my writing you think I should change or do anything. You're a fantastic add to this, but really, if we could find somebody that could write better, I don't know if you guys have that ability, but anybody that could, I don't want to push that on you guys, but if you feel an urge to do any writing, you feel any kind of, an area that you feel that you please do it. We'll assess it, and we'll hopefully, if we think it's good, we'll add it to everything. So, I would love.
And your name will still be on it.
Yeah.
Maybe one day there's a KAOS book, and it's got one chapter from me, 5 from Brian C, 1 from Brian L, that kind of thing.
Whatever. Yeah. And I would love nothing more than to pass off some of the writing issues that I have. It's a huge struggle for me.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty decent at technical writing, having published all kinds of papers. Where I'm still struggling is like creative writing that gets people's attention. But I've been trying. So
it's all about the narrative, right?
Yeah,
it's all about the narrative, and I'm feeling more confident that I'm getting the narrative down. Well, I've been at this for over a decade, specifically on the KAOS thing here, and expressing myself has just been the largest issue. And
I think you're doing really well. I think you're
downplaying
your skill.
This is at the end of 10 years. If you look at my old website, look at that, and that gives you an indication where I started. Right?
Yeah, that's true for all of us.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been a huge progression.
I don't want you to see any of my writing from 10 years ago either.
So it's anyway, any help in this area would be really, really, really nice. And so if you guys feel like you can help me at all in this area, that would be great. But otherwise, I'm going to just keep trying. All right?
All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end it now.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.